And the funny thing was that people who weren't entirely certain they were right always argued much louder than the other people, as if the main person they were trying to convince was themselves. In other words, get your hands off my Pratchett, you dog-sniffing monsters. Go on, away with you. Put it back in the ground. Stop it. In other words, welcome to the Fluffenhammer. Roll the music!
Every man lives, not every man truly dies.
Have I told you something I've I might cut this out and just stick it on at the very end of the time. But you know the term TERF?
Yes.
Right? It actually stands for tugging every dog roughly forever. So, I don't know why they keep doing it, but once a dog's buried, you should really leave it alone.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. If you go for Pet Cemetery, you need to definitely make sure it's dead.
So you're going to dig it up and just give it a quick tug.
Well, it might make it less evil.
Stop it!
You have to ask the Wendigo, wouldn't you?
I was going to say I'm having flashbacks to like was it made in the late 70s or 1980s? The film adaptation of Pet Cemetery.
Oh, I'm not sure. I watched the 2019 one like yesterday.
That was naff.
That's so
it
bad.
was so naff, and I love John Lithgow. I love him so
Same.
much, and I was like, "Oh, John, it's so bad. What are you doing? What are
Yeah.
you doing?" You know,
It
what?
felt like a TV movie from PBS or
It so
something.
did,
It's
like
weird.
like a
Yeah, it
TV
really
movie,
did.
but from like the early 2000s. It had all like
Yeah.
the tropes of horror from the early 2000s. You know, that blue filter that makes everything grey. And I was like,
yeah.
God, the kids in masks. Oh yeah, that's subtle. It's like, oh God, stop it, slap.
Can you imagine their parents like, oh, what are you going to do today, kids? Oh, the ritual burial of a dead animal. Don't forget your creepy cultist masks.
I mean,
oh, I won't, Mum.
Don't get me wrong.
Well, they put on their J.K. Rowling masks and just start digging up dead dogs to wank off.
They're not J.K. Rowling masks. They're just skin masks from people they've murdered. Which might be J.K. Rowling, I wouldn't know.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The original adaptation, which I believe is a 1980s film, it isn't perfect, but it's a million times better. It's got like have you ever read the book? You ever read the Pet Cemetery?
No.
The
Yes,
book?
yeah.
So dirty. There's something really grimily unpleasant about it. It's like leaves you feeling soiled for having read it. It's really clever. It's a good thing for a horror book to do. The film has got that. For all of its flaws, the 1980s film has got that. It feels, like something
Isn't
dug
it
up.
Denise Crosby in that as well as the wife?
That sounds familiar.
I think it is, isn't it?
Lady from Star Trek, Tasha Yar.
Yes,
I think it's
yeah,
her,
that's
right.
right. That's right. It's a filthy
Even
film.
dead, right at the end, I was like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, she's pretty, her. I like her.
Oh,
I'd still
God,
go out
really?
with her.
Ooh.
My standards aren't high these days, George. She's still breathing. It's all right.
Yeah.
We can
Well,
go with it.
actually, is she? Because she's undead at that point, isn't she?
She got brought back by a Wendigo. It's close enough.
Okay, fair enough.
I can cross the line.
Okay.
I just pushed the line a little bit further along.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So, as we keep getting told off for not doing introductions,
Yes, okay.
I'm Adam. Hello.
Hi.
This is Andy.
Oh, hello. That's my name. Hi.
And that's George.
Hello. I like the way you said that and point. I imagined you pointing into the darkened corner where something is sort of gribbling and
You know full well whenever I do that, I actually do physically point.
Yes.
And I always point it to the two opposite corners of my room when I do it.
over there, and then when the camera turns, you see something like. When you see it, you'll shit bricks. It's like something horrible.
Why do you keep
What?
me and George separate, though? Why do you put us in different corners? That's mean.
That is strange.
Social isolation.
Ah.
It's like social distancing,
Right.
but for monsters.
I see. Well, that's all right. I mean, Andy's an undead monster. I'm a chaos monster, so I suppose that's fair.
That's true.
I like the idea that Andy is like an undead monster, as in he was raised from the dead. He's stitched together from all these different parts. It would certainly explain the height.
Yes, yeah. I'm made of lots of smaller people.
I mean, you know, there's just like an entire person for one leg. I mean, people think I'm joking about Andy's height, but, you know, during the early 2000s when frosted tips were a thing, Andy just stood outside and let the atmosphere do its thing.
Here's the thing: you're building me up like I'm like well over 6 foot. I'm only like 6 foot, like maybe 1 or even just 6 foot. I'm not even like a substantial 6 foot.
Yeah, you're sort of emphasizing the Frankenstein's monster elements of the undead.
If I could be
saying
6'7", I'd take it. 'Cause that's monster height. That is.
Right.
Well, what I'm saying is that if you stood up taller, you would be taller.
If I uncurled my crooked spine.
Yeah, you know, if you just let your spine uncoil from the sigil of evil that it's currently in, and then stood to your full height, and then stretched your arms out into its full repositories, then, you know, all 6 of your arms, obviously, and then people could see you for the 12-foot fanged monster that you are.
I can only do that for the final boss fight, though, or the act 3 of the movie.
Yeah.
You know, when the final reveal comes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You've got to
yeah,
be
I-
defeated once by the party, haven't you?
Exactly.
That's
yeah.
the thing.
And so far, you've not been defeated. And, of course, George is just a swirling mist
Sort
of
of
blood and gore.
Nebulous mass of insanity, yeah.
Occasionally you see things in there like a baby's rattle and, you know,
Stuff
a
you
dog's foot.
really don't want to see. Yeah, that's generally what happens.
Political discourse.
Twitter.
Twitter.
Sometimes.
It's just floating around in the mist. I'm like, no, take it away.
Make it stop. Make it stop.
That's actually an interesting idea. What would the chaos god of political discourse be?
Oh,
It would just be Twitter
it
or
would be
Facebook.
Twitter,
It would
yeah.
it's just that, yeah.
No, Facebook would be the chaos god of stupidity. Just like shouting into a void. It would be a megaphone and a pit. That's all it would be. So, shall we talk? Speaking of megaphones and pits, shall we talk about some Warhammer?
Yeah, let's. I mean, there's exciting stuff happening for me. That's for damn sure.
When did we last talk? I can't remember. It's
It
been
was
ages.
3 weeks ago.
It
was gonna be
was.
3 weeks ago.
And we talked about lots of stuff, didn't we? We talked about 3.0,
Yes.
AOS 3.0, talked a little bit about Ninth Ed and what's going on in that.
Aye, and then they unleashed some really weird references. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I did not expect to see a load of Sean Connery references all hit at the same time.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one that saw that.
I'm just saying that these dragons seem familiar.
They have so much chin.
They do. They really do. I mean, I like them for my part. I think they're quite cool. But I mean, I think that may be because up until this point, dragons have been a bit tricky in Warhammer, haven't they?
In terms
Yes.
of what?
They've always been a bit weird. Like the
Lore-wise, rule-wise, model-wise?
model-wise, design-wise, they've
Okay.
always been a little strange to look at. They've always been like this weird combination of your sort of Chinese, Eastern serpentine dragons and your Western, more bulbous dragons, and they've never really hit the mark for me.
The reason for that's actually a really interesting one. So that wyvern that they had from Marauder Miniatures, which I think was an alley one? I think so.
An Ali Morrison
with
sculpt, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, with the Orc Shaman.
Yeah.
Right. So they did that. That one came from Marauder, and that then set the template for everything from 1992 onwards. I
Onward,
wanna say,
really. So,
1991.
like your Wood Elf Dragon Rider, your Phoenix Prince on Dragon, your
the dragon from Talisman.
the Dragon from Talisman, Bowdross, Siegfried Van Horseman and Bowdross.
Because if you look at the dragons that came out before that, they were a lot more quintessentially Western
Like
dragons.
Western Dragons, yeah.
There's a really cool one, because I remember when I first got into Warhammer in about 1991. Oh my god, the age, the years just keep falling off me. The dust is in my blood. I got a catalogue of dragons, which I've never been able to find again. It was like a poster catalogue.
Oh, right, all
And it had-
Citadel Marauder Dragons.
It was just all the Citadel dragons that were available.
Right.
black and white on a yellow paper.
Oh, yes.
And I've never, ever been able to find it again.
Right.
I've never been able to see it again. I can't even find scans of it or, pictures of it.
Wasn't there a Dogs of War dragon as well? There was, wasn't there?
There was, I seem to think there was. But
Probably. It sounds like something they'd have as a big set piece for them.
Yeah.
Them and the Giants, to be fair.
Unfortunately,
Can't
if
remember.
I try to pull my Dogs of War book out of the bookshelf, all my other books will fall down, so I'm not going to do
I
that.
cannot remember who it was. I think it was a wood elf. Something in my mind is saying wood elf, but I can't remember, what.
Oh my God, I'm an idiot. I'm looking at this book trying to work out a way of getting to it, and then I realise that directly in front of me there is the repository of all human knowledge.
Yeah.
So,
I think it was. But yeah, those old dragons were tricky for me. They were always a little bit awkward looking, little stubby legs rearing up on their serpentine bodies. They were a little odd and difficult to put together because they were all metal.
I think the idea behind them is fine. I just think, obviously, like you say, it was the sign of the times, difficult to model them.
Yeah.
And then harder, as you say, to put them together, being as slender as they were. I think I still like the visual aesthetic of them quite a bit, because I like the merger of the Eastern and the Western dragon. I think it makes a really interesting fantasy look to it. That's kind of why I'd like... I mean, this is asking too much. I'd like regional dragons, so maybe
That would be
each
fun.
land has a different looking dragon. And then obviously the undead can have all of them.
They can have their
because they're dead,
Yes,
so it
of
doesn't
course. Yeah, I like that
Yeah.
idea. I think that's a great idea. I mean, maybe in the future they should look at doing dragons from different realms, which have different forms and different bodies and whatnot. I mean, I want evil dragons.
Oh, hell yeah.
Give me
yeah.
evil dragons. I don't just want the star dragons. I want chaos dragons, man.
You want the shadow elves dragons, they're like misty dragons and
Well,
whatnot.
Malarion. I mean, Malarion is half dragon anyway, isn't he? So, come on. Surely maybe they're a Malarion spawn or something.
I like the idea that the ones from that realm would look kind of what the original ideas of Smaug, like the original book drawings of Smaug would look like, very, very long snouted, but all kind of covered in mist.
Yeah,
That'd be a lot of fun.
That would be fun, actually.
Yeah.
That was one we missed, actually. Malekith and his dragon. What was it called?
Oh, no. I can't
Right.
remember. I play him loads in Total War Warhammer.
The
He's
Black
great.
Dragon.
He's super useful.
The Shadow Dragon. I can't remember what it was called.
why has that gone out my head? No, I should know this.
Cannot remember. I mean, they're fused together now, they're one entity now, so... When are we going to get a miniature games workshop?
Balerion.
Yeah, we want Malarion.
Oh, no.
Malarion's the fusion name. I mean,
no.
as we've said, they're definitely coming at some point. I mean, it's basically been mooted at this point that we're going to get the Umbraneth. So I'm just waiting to see.
Apparently her name was Sulekech. Sulekh.
Oh, okay. So unpronounceable, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, this is going off the warhammerfantasy.fandom.com/wiki.
It's like
figures
the original
you go.
name of Archaon's horse. In the original edition, it didn't used to be called Dorgar. It was Wasarch or something. It was like WRO''SRAYCH. That's the one. Asanil the Dragon Lord. Yes. Oh,
that's cool.
Yes. God, that's old school, isn't it?
I think that's actually the dragon from Talisman.
Is it? They've just used that and put a rider on it, basically.
I think they have, yeah. 'Cause if you look, there's no actual chair.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, he's just sitting on it.
He's just sitting
So
on
I
it, yeah.
think-
Oh, he's just rough riding. That's not cool.
That's not good on a dragon. They've got scales on their back. That's going to chafe.
It's more the spines.
I was going to say, it's not good on the dragon. It's not good on the rider.
It's bloody not good on the rider.
Jesus.
That's for damn sure. Ouch. Ouch.
Got to get some Vaseline after the day's work.
Yeesh, yeah. Ow, man. Then there was that. Do you remember the king of the father of Chaos Dragons, Galrach?
Which one was that?
Galrach. He came later on in... you need like half a pound of phlegm in your throat to actually pronounce it.
Okay. What edition was he? Do you remember?
He originally came in good question, 6th or 7th, I want to say.
Okay.
He was late on. He only lasted for a few editions, and his miniature
there it is, Galrach.
Galrach, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's
big mutant dragon.
Yeah, two heads, three
That's
heads.
Two heads, yeah.
It almost looks like the gross beast, the fleshy hound from Bloodborne.
Very much,
in some ways.
It looks like, if we were talking about the Thing earlier, if the Thing tried to shape itself into a dragon, it would look kind of like that. But he's the father of chaos dragons, apparently.
He's so thin.
Yeah, he is really thin. But his whole shtick was that he was possessed by a Lord of Change. So one of the heads was the dragon personality, and the other head was the Lord of Change, and they didn't like one another. So they used to fight. In the middle of a game, they would actually stop and fight one another. But he was a bit of a beast. He had all the powers of a dragon, but he could cast spells like a Lord of Change.
Damn,
so
that sounds incredibly powerful.
Yeah, he was pretty badass. He was pretty badass, but you had to roll on a dice, and I think it was a leadership test. And if he failed, then he would harm himself. He would attack himself. He would stop and do nothing for a turn while he attacked himself.
Oh, they did a Forge World one, apparently.
Yes, there was a Forge World Chaos Dragon.
Wow.
There was. It was.
No, it's Galrach. I think it's meant to be this one.
Oh, hello. Yeah. Let's have a look.
I'll put it in chat. I don't know how true it'd be, but it just popped up on
Very nice. On
the good old YouTube.
Very cool. It's kind of a nice design for dragons as well, isn't it? I like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. This one looks a little bit better than the original one, as he's a bit chunkier. He's got a bit more flesh to him. He's a bit better bows as well.
It's a shame. I always liked the artwork for Galrach and the idea for Galrach, but I never liked the miniature.
I could see that.
I never liked the miniature. It wasn't... I don't know. I always preferred Baldros, the one that Egrim Van Horseman rides. Which was like donkey's years old. That character, they've got to bring him back. They've got to bring him back for the Disciples of Zeech. Egrim Van Horseman, he should be the big miniature for the Disciples of Zeech,
Yeah.
Oh my god. And it's so easy to do. I mean, he absorbed the wind of light at the end of the old world and went bang. Just bring him back. Just make, do the Zigfold thing. Just bring him back. It'd be so easy.
But if he is a person, did you say of Tzeentch, right? If he is part of Tzeentch's guys, how would you change him? Because I think he'd need to be quite twisty. Would he be more horse than man?
More dragon than man, yeah, maybe.
Horse dragon?
Yeah, maybe.
He's more horsed than man.
Yeah, Egrim Van...
Hand him over Limpsil.
Horsed man, yeah. Bojack Van
What would be
Horseman,
interesting, actually, is if they made him, so instead of riding his dragon, he was riding some kind of chained Lord of
Change.
Lord of Change, thank you. All I could think of there was Keeper of Change. No, that's not right.
That's not right. No, that's a different thing altogether.
I was positive you were going to say, what if the dragon was riding him? I was positive that's where you were going to go.
Poor old Egrim, I don't think he's that strong. He's an academic. He's a scholar,
He is imbued with the powers of chaos.
Ouch, that would hurt.
I like the idea of him just being there and it's like giving a piggyback ride to a giant dragon that's just
hefting it up, for the amusement of Tzeentch,
It's kind of like has the look of like when those massive dogs get picked up by their owner and they just look so happy.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing was, he was for many editions, he was the big bad guy for Tzeentch Chaos armies in Fantasy.
He was, yeah.
He was like, he's even mentioned in the Liber Chaotica Tzeentch as like the arch disciple of Tzeentch. So, and his whole shtick was that he controlled loads of secret cabals and chaos cults throughout the Empire. What is Tzeentch now? It's the Disciples of Tzeentch. It's the Arcanites. He would be so perfectly placed as like the unseen puppet master that's controlling them all, Wouldn't he? Bring it back. Bring it back.
I've always in two minds about whether or not they should actually bring characters back from Fantasy Battle into AOS. But Horseman is definitely one of them.
Is one of them. There's a few that I would love to see. I mean, Zigfold, I think they did a magnificent job with, obviously. Sorry, I did not mean that. I did not mean that. Obviously, yeah. I think they made him that whole thing where they rejigged his background to make him like the messiah of Slaanesh. Brilliance. Absolute brilliant. And the way he even looks like the old artwork of Slaanesh, I think, just brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. Love him to bits. So they need to do this if they're going to bring back the old characters. That's what they need to do with them slightly. Just rejig them slightly. You know.
As I say, I'm always in two minds because when you start bringing back a lot of the old characters, there's always going to be, well, what about this one? What about this one? What about this one? And I think that you kind of mire yourself down.
Yeah, it opens the floodgates a little bit, and also it prevents them from making new characters as well. It kind of takes up space for new characters, doesn't it? So, but the Disciples are really one of those books that need it. They really need their big mortal.
There we agree, yes.
Don't they? I mean, they've got the big demon characters. I mean, Kairos is the big demon character, and he's like, yeah, it's difficult to get bigger in Tzeentch than Kairos because he is like the Oracle, isn't he? You know, he encapsulates everything that Tzeentch is about. But mortal-wise, there's hardly anybody. There are hardly any mortal characters in the Disciples of Tzeentch book. So
it is a weird one, isn't it? I think it's probably to do with the fact that these cults appear everywhere. So, having a named character turn up in every cult would be a bit of a weird one. But no, I totally agree. The fact that it's one of those weird ones that started off when AOS started, where there was very little in the way of special characters.
Yes, yeah.
And some of those armies are still feeling
it's
that
true.
sting.
But it's a little unbalanced, isn't it? So because, of course, Khorne had lots of characters before, like Scylla, like Valkyr, and has just gotten more. He's just gotten more since. Slaanesh didn't have any. But now has got tons. Has got loads of characters now. Glutos, who is amazing. Just fabulous character. Love him to bits. And I'm just so glad they went down that gluttony route, emphasizing a slightly different aspect of Slaanesh.
I'm just happy there's a halfling in there.
Yeah, right. Yes, there is. There's a halfling in there. They don't call him that, but that's what he is.
He's just this tiny little chaos halfling, which is the best thing ever.
It's grim. Like, the whole background around Glutos is really grim and unpleasant, and the whole sort of cannibalistic thing that they have going on, it's really unpleasant. I like it a lot, I've got to say.
I'm hoping at some point they're going to find a way to bring the old Warhammer Fantasy roleplay gnomes into
wow,
it.
God.
Chaos gnomes.
Chaos gnomes, yeah, why not, eh?
Well, the idea is that they were literally half chaos, half not chaos, half order.
Yeah.
They were creatures of chaos, but who lived in society.
Yeah, interesting.
Just went around doing their thing. They were awesome.
Interesting.
Awful characters to play.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
cool.
Slaanesh has even got like the twins knocking about now. So actually,
Indeed, yeah.
Bizarrely, Slaanesh has gone from like being almost gone at the end of the old world to being like the most fulsome, best represented chaos power out there.
Very much so, yeah. I'm just thinking about this now because Slaanesh has got a fair few. Nurgle has a name.
It's got Festus the Leech Lord, who's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's got Rotigus, Rainfather. It's got Horticulus, obviously. You know.
Yes. You gotta love Horticulus.
Yeah. It hasn't got that many mortal characters.
No.
Is Festus the only one?
I guess mortals just come and go too easily in the mortal realms at this point.
Yeah.
There's the Glotkin.
The Glotkin, of course, yes, they've got, obviously. So they've got their big miniature too. In the same, but Tzeentch doesn't. The Disciples don't,
No.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It is, actually. It's almost like Tzeentch has just been forgotten about a little bit.
It's been shelved. They've got other things to do with AOS at the moment.
I mean,
They've got Sean Connery dragons.
Yeah, they do.
That's right.
They do. And according to the blurb we've seen, you're going to be able to field like a whole army of them. Which is kind of cool. A dragon army. I mean, there have been people calling for a dragon army in Warhammer since the days of Fantasy Battle.
Of course, yeah.
So,
and the fact you're actually getting one.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, I wish there were more of them than just the Stormcast, But maybe later, who knows? I mean, there should be destruction dragons, shouldn't there?
No, I've got my big vulture. I'm happy with that.
The big vulture's great, don't get me wrong. And the big monsters, that the swamp monsters that the Cruel Boys write, I love them. They're so cool. They look like they're stitched together out of bits and filth.
I'm starting to turn around on the Cruel Boys.
You're getting there, are you? You're getting there.
Yeah.
Do you know what the
worn
vulture?
you down.
The vulture. The minute I saw it, what it reminded me of is the vultures in like Harryhausen films, like the big one that's under the command of Calabos in Clash of the Titans. That's what I thought of immediately.
Right, this is going to either be a journey that you guys come with me on, or not at all. There's no middle ground here where you're just going to go, okay, it's either going to be a, yep, I can see it, or nope, you're on your own there.
Okay.
Right. Do you remember the Popeye the Sailor versus Simbad short?
No.
Sorry, no.
No, I didn't think anybody else was going to come with me on this one. The vulture reminds me of the rock in the Popeye versus Simbad.
Okay. Okay.
Which,
right.
by the way, if you haven't seen that, find it, because it is the most amazing bit of animation you've ever seen.
I was going to say, there's a rock in a Popeye cartoon.
Oh yeah, we're talking. So Simbad, we're going way off the beaten track here. So Simbad in the short is he's like a monster collector.
Right.
He goes around attacking monsters and chaining them up and bringing them to his island.
Okay.
So he's got a cyclops. He's got these like giant lions and a rock.
So all the stuff that Simbad fought in the original stories, actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah, everything that's in those stories he has chained
That's
up on
kind of
his
fun,
island.
isn't it?
Oh, it's just beautiful.
As an aside, you guys have seen like the Harryhausen Simbad films, yeah?
Oh yes.
Where they always Simbad is always like this drop dead sexy guy. Like just beautiful,
He was an ugly fella. If he's not like scarred and messed up and like full beard, then that's not Simbad.
Not in the Harryhausen films, no, because this was this was Hollywood. You had to have like the leading man who was beautiful.
Is Andy watching the Simbad versus Popeye short?
No. I wouldn't even know where to find it.
YouTube. It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
Right,
Okay.
I'm gonna have to have a look at that. That is interesting. But what
honestly,
I mean, I can see the connection because Popeye the Sailor, Simbad the Sailor. I can see the connection, but it's an odd collision of things.
There's a sequence where Simbad's walking through his menagerie, and the background and foreground are moving at different speeds to give you this feeling of him turning around the island.
Oh wow!
And it is just beautiful.
That's really interesting.
Neat.
If you're a fan of animation, I can't recommend it enough because it is just glorious.
Wow, that does sound good.
You'll be singing the song for weeks.
Is it a bit of an earworm, is it?
I'm Popeye, yeah. Oh, yes.
But no, that...
The Simbad the Sailor song is, it's good. It's very good.
But don't you get, it seems to me that alongside lots of other influences at the moment, that the miniature designers are looking to things like Harryhausen and old animations and whatnot, as well as video games, obviously, for their inspirations. I'm seeing lots of little cues that I recognise from things like Harryhausen, like from, from big creature features, and I love that. I love it to bits.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that these dragons that they're making for the Stormcast are actually 6-limbed Harryhausen dragons, that makes me very happy.
Well, as I say, I'm glad that there is now like an almost standardized way dragons look in the realms. There are dragons and they look like this. That's kind of cool. I mean, like Andy said, I would like to see maybe more variation in them, depending on where they come from.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having different... I mean, obviously, you've got your own colour schemes. So that makes sense. But I think having different elements attached to them would work really well.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Ice horns, fire horns, that type of thing.
Different,
nice,
different types of
Break them up
dragons
a bit.
bred in the realms that have different qualities about them. I mean, you've already got your obviously you've got your undead dragons, you've got your zombie dragons, which are great, And there's no need to retire that miniature because it's gorgeous. It is just fabulous. It's going to stand the test of time, that miniature. But it would be nice to see some other variants, definitely.
I do like these new helmets that the Stormcast are wearing. They're
actually the Stormcast generally since 3.0, the Stormcast have all been quite impressive, I've got to say.
They have. Well, they've moved away from being Sigmarines.
Yes.
They've really got their own
they look a bit more Templar-like to me now. They look like, you know, they look a bit more Dark Souls. I mean, I know we've almost like, it's beating a dead horse on this show at the moment, saying that AOS has been heavily inspired by the Dark Souls games, but it has, and they look a little bit Dark Souls to me, which I like. That is in no way a condemnation.
I like the idea of they look a bit Dark Souls, which is like beating a dead horse, and then it gets up again, so you beat it a bit more.
Beat it again,
and then it keeps getting up. Yeah. Then you try to roll out the way, but it eats
That's
you.
the way Dark Souls works.
I'm going to say that's a bit more Bloodborne than Dark Souls.
That is a bit, yeah. It's a bit.
Then the horse splits in twain, and its innards become a new face.
Well,
then the horse pulls out a magic moonlight greatsword, and then things get really hard.
Doesn't it just? Yeah, bloody hard.
Damn
then
you,
a centaur
Ludwig.
Wow.
Then the centaur runs up and jumps on the horse, and you've got to now beat the horse and ride it.
Have you seen that battle, Adam? The Ludwig battle in Bloodborne?
Yes, I have. I think, did I watch Andy play it? I think I watched Andy play it.
It's generally regarded as one of the hardest fights in all of those games. He's a bastard. He's great.
He's nippy.
But, ooh.
The way you said that, it sounded like Abaddon's brother. He's a bastard.
He is.
You can't copyright that Games Workshop. I'm just saying that now.
No.
That's George's word.
That's my word. Yeah. Oh wow.
In your next short story, you must create a character called a bastard.
A bastard.
Could be a demon. Or
well,
something.
they did do it. There's a character in the background from ages ago called Abadas. A badass, yeah. I mean, wasn't that the original joke for Abaddon? I know that Abaddon is also Abaddon is also like a mythological term. It's a mythological entity, but I don't think they knew that when they called him Abaddon. From what I understand, it was a joke, a bad one. You know.
Yeah, Abaddon, the head of the Lake of Fire, isn't it?
Yeah, Abaddon is he's a creature from. He appears in lots of different mythologies. Sometimes he's an angel, sometimes he's a demon. He appears in a lot of Kabbalistic lore, you know. A lot of Jewish apocrypha, like texts that didn't make it into the Talmud. He appears in, and he's also mentioned in the Bible a couple of times. Sometimes as an angel, sometimes as just a spirit or an entity. He's got lots of different aspects and forms, and he's not. Sometimes he's a destroyer, sometimes he's not. You know, it depends on where you go as to what he is. But it's interesting that they accidentally gained that onus for that character just through a joke. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look back at that time, and most of the names are some kind of reference or joke.
Yeah, they are. All of them are. All of them are like in jokes or something like that. And some of them are really funny. Some of them are fairly on the nose, you know?
Gasgul Thraka being an anagram of Margaret Thatcher.
Margaret Thatcher, yeah. Margaret Thatcher, yeah.
There was one about Magnus.
Marnius Calgar. Yeah, Marnius Calgar is something. It's a reference to
I can't remember what it is, though. It's something really dumb, and I can't think what
it is something really silly. I mean, most of the Eldari names from that time are directly from Tolkien, you know, and directly.
Yes,
I mean, the term Eldar is from Tolkien. That's why they changed it. That's why they changed it. You know?
Has anyone noticed on the Warhammer community site, and I'll send you the link now, that they forgot to put a dragon's tail on?
No. What?
Hang on.
No. Oh, that's a bit of an oversight, isn't it?
Second picture. The dragon's tail's missing entirely.
Oh, no.
Oh, so it is.
So it is.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of an oversight, isn't it? It's
only noticed because I was looking at the armor. It's like,
were you guys surprised by this? That I was. I mean, I didn't.
Oh yeah.
These came out of nowhere. There's been no rumours or anything about dragon riders or anything like that.
Let me just push my glasses at my face. Actually,
have there been? Have I just missed them?
Yep, in the Broken Realm short stories, the free fiction, the Draconeth have been getting spawned by the Slan.
Oh, I suppose Kragnos as well have been references. Kragnos is going to be pissed.
Well, he's just going to go around kicking things.
Which is, I know it's redundant. I know it's completely redundant. It's almost a tautology, isn't it, to say that Kragnos is going to be angry. It's like saying Khorne is going to be angry. It's like, well, duh, you know. But he's going to be extra super special angry.
I really want to see people start to like take these dragons and make a diorama out of them fighting Kragnos.
I really don't like the line in this this page that you sent us. He was still knocking around, but it was the Seraphon who've been hard at work incubating eggs and returning Dragoneth to the realms. Because that just makes it sound like the Seraphon are out there inseminating dragons. With big, long turkey bases and gloves.
It does.
Well,
have
I
like the idea of.
It has that feeling about it, doesn't it?
That's where the word skinky comes from.
Oh no! Is that how you skink?
Oh no!
It's a dragon term.
Don't skink shame.
I'm having like what would the artificial insemination clinic on those ships look like? You know,
it's just like 15 Seraphon warriors with a really big stick with a little bag on the end.
Now
it's just like...
you know, and then your mind automatically goes to that fight in Ash versus the Evil Dead in the sperm bank, doesn't it? And then it's just like no.
Well, in the background there has to be a slan, the dead corpse just watching it. And you can just see a dried up Krog tongue come out of his mouth and just lick his lips as it begins.
Yes.
This is what I've been waiting for.
Oh, wow.
Jabba the Hutt style.
But I mean, like the Stormcaster.
I'm so dusty. Sorry.
The Stormcaster are getting loads at the moment, aren't they? Like, loads of attention. It's kind of cool after they've been on the back burner for a little bit. It's nice to see them.
I guess the problem with that is it feels like, at least to me, they are getting a big push again, and it has been a while since they've had a big push, but they seemed fairly fleshed out before.
They did, yes.
So it's a little bit, again, from my perspective, like it's a bit too much giving more and more to an already
to an established
worked out
force. Yeah,
yeah.
there are.
I don't mind them doing the new models and stuff for the new box set. I understand that it's a new box set. They're the main boys, so okay, fair enough. But continuing it, it's from my perspective a little too much. It would have been nice if it was, I don't know, maybe
so
the
focus,
elves riding the dragons, or maybe some dwarves riding the dragons. That would have been quite nice.
The dwarves or the Duardin are definitely coming. They're definitely
or just maybe
be
human.
here.
Maybe they're just human tamers. You know, maybe it's not the maybe Stormcast are a bit too inhuman
prevalent
to be able to bond with a dragon. Because they've got bits of a god in them. Maybe the human touch is like they can, I don't know, this is kind of woo-woo reasoning, but they can empathize a bit more with a dragon, and the dragon can respect the human kind of thing. A bit like How to Train Your Dragon. There you go, there's another
I mean, these dragons are the children of, what's it called, Dracolith, the star dragon?
Yes.
That's the case, isn't it? Is that
right?
Sick Mouse Buddy. Am I? Yeah, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, so the Dragoneth were a race that Kragnos murdered.
Yeah.
But the Seraphon basically took a load of eggs and fluid and kept them safe, kept them out of the way, and then have been just slowly and surely rebuilding the bloodlines.
Yeah.
And then went, here you go, out you get, and then just chucked them all out the spaceship. You got wings, you can fly.
I mean, it feels like they're going to be like the Seraphon are going to be big movers and shakers in the new edition, doesn't it? They're going to be like manipulating things from behind the scenes. And of course the new Croak miniature kind of suggests they're going to get a reworking.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? If you go back a year, 18 months, what we were talking about a lot was that the Seraphon were just there and they weren't really doing anything. They didn't fit really well.
Yeah.
Christopher would scream at us through his headset going, God damn it, you bastards, leave my preferred lizards alone. I'm a huge fan of these guys, and you shit on them daily. And I would say, yes, that's because they're terrible.
Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that they're doing stuff with them. I really am.
Yes, yeah, it's about time.
And they've moved from that to being one of the big shakers, and in the lore alone, I am loving the Seraphon.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they go almost like high technology with them, but in that sort of like stone, magical, slightly Incan flavoured way, Yeah, that's what I hope they do with them. I mean, that thing that Croak is riding in his new miniature,
it's amazing.
That device, it's just wow. You know, there are miniatures that come out that are like steps up. You know, they make you reevaluate your entire preconceptions of what miniatures are. The Slanesh twins did it for me. The Croak miniature really, really is that. It's amazing.
I think it is to still say that it would be nice if they got a little bit of a rework visually for most of the troops, because Croak looks so good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say no if they redesigned at least the big Seraphon rather than the Skink to look a bit more like the... Have you seen Raka? I've mentioned this to Griff this week, but I'll ask George. Have you seen Raka, George, the short film done by the guy that did District 9?
No, I haven't.
Okay, he's the lizard design for their space lizard, even though the image is quite small. But it's really cool. It's a really solid design for an alien lizard-like species, and if go online, go on Google RAKKA, and if you're wondering what I'm talking about, people listening to the show, that's what Raka's alien things looks like. And I think if you redesign at least the head of them to look a bit like that, that might be a unique look for them rather than just being lizard people, and it makes them a bit more special and AOS-y.
Yeah. We coined that term, by the way.
Well, you know, it's what they've been doing, and it makes sense why they're doing it. It's a good separation between fantasy and this new stuff, which is, you know,
totally
a good idea.
Makes sense.
I think necessary as well.
Yeah, and it just invests the armies with something that little bit extra, doesn't it? It makes them interesting.
Yes.
I mean, there are armies now that I really like that I could not care less about in Fantasy Battle. I could not care less about. Wood Elves become the Sylvaneth. Sylvaneth are great. Sylvaneth are wonderful. Wood Elves, boring. So dull, so boring. Yawn.
I like Dryker. Dryker was pretty cool.
Oh, Dryker was fun, and also I liked Orion. I liked Orion because he was like a big god of the woods, you know, and had like that fey quality about him. But the Sylvaneth are great. I love to bits the Sylvaneth.
They've done way more with them. That's for sure.
The ambiguity
at least the concept,
of them. The ambiguity of them, the way they are like the proper fey spirits of the wilds. I love that. And Alariel is now much more interesting as well. She's not just Galadriel.
Yeah, that was always a bit of a... I mean, hey, we're totally not stealing from Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah, that's all it was. I mean, they came from a wood called Lorien.
Yeah.
I mean, like, for God's sake, you know? Games Workshop, they weren't even trying with that one. They weren't even trying.
No. Well, I'm sure you could point at one or two things throughout Games Workshop's time and be like, come on now.
Yeah.
What's this?
Stop
Which
it.
is obviously why they're having to change it so hard now. Or some parts so hard now, right?
Oh, man. Yes, the Wood Elves were just the most boring things on Earth. Or on whatever the old world was called. The old world.
It's the old world, yeah.
It was called the old world, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But the Sylvaneth love. The High Elves become the Lumineth. Lumineth are fantastic. They are just so interesting, even though they've still got some of that high elf aesthetic going on, you know? It's amazing to me how they've made armies that just bored the arse off me, quite frankly, once upon a time, into something really fascinating.
I would say they never bored the arse off me. I would phrase it for myself more as they are never armies that I'd want to play as.
Yeah, that's basically what I mean. You know, not knocking the people who like them at all. Because
I definitely like the High Elves as a concept because it's the Tolkien version of High Elves, and I like that, you know. And the Wood Elves, I always had the problem with the Wood Elves being just elves in the forest, which is why the Sylvaneth, I would agree, are more interesting because, like you say, there's more fey element to them than just being elves that happen to live in the wood rather than a fancy city.
Yeah, it distinguishes them, doesn't it? It distinguishes them. It makes them a little bit more ambiguous and fun to play with. And the fiction about the Sylvaneth is wonderful for the most part. There's they feature a lot in the Warhammer horror books.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Very well, actually. It works really, really well. There's some beautiful short stories that involve them. Absolutely stunning short stories that involve them. And I like the fact that's possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you couldn't have written horror stories about the Wood Elves.
I think you could have. I think the problem is, and we've mentioned this again quite a few times before, the problem with the setting is that it never allowed for it.
It wouldn't have fit. It wouldn't have worked.
the Warhammer Fantasy world, the old world, was neglected so much in terms of its story or progression or whatever. Again, we've said it before, it became stagnant and it did lock in the world. I think you could do a horror story with Wood Elves, but it would take some changing of the fundamentals
that's
of
the
what
problem.
the Wood Elves are.
You would have to change
expand on
them so much that they probably wouldn't have been recognisable as what they were. You know,
with what the Wood Elves were by the time the End Times came around, probably not. But if you look at maybe 5th and 6th, where they were really leaning into that fae
the sort
feel
of
to
pagan.
them.
That's the way. That's the route to go. Go down like the folk horror route. If you're going to do it, go down the folk horror route. Like go Wicker Man with them. You know, that's the only thing I could think of really.
I mentioned it before. I suppose again, Draco, it would be an avenue for the horror elements, and she just hates everything and everyone. So you could do something with that kind of aspect. And that's where's Draco living? She lives in between, like Sylvania-ish border and on the way up to Kislev, whatever that area is called. Is that Tabelin area?
God. Tabelheim? Yeah. Oh, I can't remember.
Tabelheim. It's somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but what they've done with them now, it's beautiful. Sylvaneth, you know, would consider collecting. They're a beautiful miniature range, and there's so much you can do. There's so much you can do.
I've got some Sylvaneth here that I'll be putting up for sale. If you know,
they are beauteous things.
Here's the question, Gruff. When are you going to make the creature from Ritual for a Sylvaneth army?
Oh yeah, that's just perfect, isn't it?
When I win the lottery.
Because you know what you could do? You could use Kragnos as a base for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you could, yeah. Very easily.
The problem is, Andy, the amount of ideas I have for Kragnos and the things I could do with him would mean that I would be bankrupt and destitute within about a week.
Okay.
So, if everyone wants to send me a Kragnos... Hi.
I mean, if you send Adam doubles, like if multiple people send him Kragnos eyes, that's okay because he could bash them into lots of things.
Yeah, I'd get bash one Kragnos to ride another Kragnos.
Oh my god!
Oh dear me! It's like the elephant pyramid from Dumbo, isn't it? You know. It's Kragnos all the way down.
It's Kragnos squared.
But yeah, I mean, there's almost too much to talk about in AOS. There's so much potential, and there's so much that's being mooted that is happening. It's crazy, but it's crazy the stuff that's going on in AOS right now. And every week there's something new that crops up.
AOS is hitting on all cylinders in a way that makes me very, very happy because I really like what it's doing at the moment. It is not breaking ties with the foundations of the old world, but it's forging its own path in a very real way now. Soul Wars did a very good job at laying the new status quo down. And now we seem to be moving right the way forward.
Well, Broken Realms has just rampaged forward, hasn't it? It's just carried everything so far
I have
forward.
read Broken Realms Kragnos and Broken Realms Morathai about 50 times now.
They're good books, aren't they? They're really
they're amazing.
Good, fun, well-written books. And that, I mean, even with the good campaign books before, you didn't read them multiple times, did you? You kind of got the basis for them and then you moved on. They're really good fun. And the reason they work is because they take a much more character-oriented view.
Yes.
So they're much more intimate, they're much more interesting. There's more politics involved and more metaphysics involved rather than the big battles are there and they're great, they're really good fun, but there's more of an intimate look here. And it works, it just works.
What I was going to say was, and even I'm rereading those, I've reread those a couple of times, that is nothing compared to the fact that I will sit and spend an evening just rereading Be'lakor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Be'lakor is the best book Games Workshop have put out as a campaign book ever. bar none.
I would probably agree with that. I think it's a stunner. I think it's a stone cold stunner of a book. It's a great way of reintroducing an old character, you know, and they make him interesting. I mean, Baylor's a difficult one. I've always found he's a difficult one because again he's another arch messiah of chaos, isn't he? And it's like, well, how many of them have we got across the game system? There's quite a few. But they've actually made him into this insidious schemer, which I really, really like.
I've just noticed something. So I've got a couple of links, just to look behind the curtain a little bit. I've got a couple of links here just for sharing with everybody and just so we can talk about things as we go along. And just on the side here, there's a little link that just says, the Octaria sector is hell, and it's all Inquisitor Cryptman's fault.
Yes, yeah.
And how am I supposed to not click on that?
Of course, yeah.
Because it is Inquisitor Cryptman.
And the Tyranids, which again you like, you know. From the like little rumblings we're getting, I think the Tyranids are going to be hitting 40k relatively soon.
I would hope so.
It feels that way, doesn't it? Because they're cropping up in the background again. They're starting to get mentions again, and that normally presages something.
Oh yeah, the wheel keeps on turning. The new stuff will always slowly but surely get pushed to the forefront.
I don't think they will be coming before the Gene Stealer cults, for the simple reason that the pattern they seem to be following in 40k and 9th Ed is they're doing all the armies that have full miniatures ranges that don't require complete overhauls first. And I think the Tyranids may be getting one of their overhauls, like a big one this time round.
I hope so, because the Tyranid, I don't know what. Well, we've talked about this.
Well, it's a bit old now. I mean, it's just a bit old now, isn't it? It's been around for a while.
Give me goo is the best, in the way that Lord Croak would say when he's getting one of the dragons impregnated. Give me goo.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, they need to go full on, like, proper gribbly alien horror now with the Tyranids, don't they? They need to abandon, like, the slightly... I know people kind of love it, but they need to abandon the slightly cartoony aesthetic that they used to have way back when and go for something really dark and gribbly.
Yeah, give us gribbles.
Just go full Geiger.
Yeah, that's it. Go for full on Giga. Yeah, it couldn't be better. And it's there, isn't it?
Could you do, like, a mixture of Geiger and Barker in some kind of way?
Bloody hell. That's more Slanesh, to be honest.
I think maybe.
The Barker thing
I'm not
is
saying
so
you have like
Slanesh.
hooks and stuff in the Tyranids, but you could probably do something a bit more horrific with them in some aspects.
Definitely. I mean, it's there in the background. They are patently horrific by their very nature, but yeah, they could go more with I'm thinking more Cronenberg, like body horror.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of what I'd be going for with the Tyranids, because that's what they are. They're body horror, aren't they?
Yeah.
What I'd like to see is like people being absorbed into things.
Oh yeah.
Some kind of like Hoover creature that just comes along and sucks bodies up. Again,
they do exist. They're in the background, I mean, but they're very rarely represented in the actual miniatures range or in the game,
If we start having a conversation about all the stuff that's in the Tyranid background that isn't on the tabletop, we're going to be here.
You're going to be here for a while.
Time.
I mean, as I say, I think the Gene Stealer cults will be coming first. We've already had. There's been a rumor engine, and it's obviously a Gene Stealer cultist. It's obviously a Gene Stealer cultist. So I think that suggests that they're probably going to have like one character mini, and that's it.
Yeah, I don't see it being much more.
They don't need anything else. I mean, their entire miniatures range is represented and well represented at that. Speaking
of armies with a load of special characters involved, the Gene Stealer cult is probably the one that's got the most. Like in 40k, I mean, the sheer amount of character models that they have is
well, it makes sense because they're cults, aren't they? So they're they're cultivated around their figureheads, and they're all great. They're all fantastic, aren't they? From like the Magi, who are wonderful, down to the biochemist characters. I love them to bits.
The only thing that ever stops me from a Gene Stealer cult army is I can't do a Horde army.
Oh, they are. That you've got. I mean, that is just. There's no way around that with the Gene Stealer cults.
No.
That's what they are. That's the way they function. But man, I love the aberrants. Those miniatures are fantastic, and I love the background for them. I like the fact that they keep their failures, like the things that you would think would be like kicked out for being biologically impure actually become ascended in the Gene Stealer cults. They're kind of given blessed status, aren't they?
Very much so. I mean, they are they're like the also rans.
Yeah.
You know, you cannot be one of the the true sons that goes out into the world and spreads the word of the cult.
Of course.
But you will be staying at home. You'll be anointed with holy oils, and you're going to be looked after.
You will have a different status. Yeah.
Yeah. You will have a good life. You know, that's one of the things I really like about the Gene Stealer cults as they stand, where nobody really gets left behind. Everyone is looked after.
Yes.
Until the
end. Until the end. Until you
get gooped. Yeah.
Until you get eaten. Yum, num, num, num.
It's not eaten, it's gooped.
It's gooped,
gooped.
Yeah.
In the same way that Lord Croak will point at the insertion stick. I've actually made myself feel really bad by using the term insertion stick.
It's all very sort of biological this evening, isn't it?
It is. It's there's just arcing jets of semen as far as
Now it's all gone very Slaanesh. Very Slaanesh indeed.
It's like some kind of like organic matter, but that's also a fountain.
Have you guys seen the rumours that are floating around these days? And they're from one of the rumour mongers on the internet that is like always right. It's like a 99% hit rate, you know. There are rumours floating around about the Chaos Space Marines in 9th Ed. And what they're saying is that, and it's kind of inevitable, the World Eaters are going to be getting their own codex at some point.
It makes a lot of sense.
Before the Emperor's Children?
Apparently so. Apparently the World
Are the
Eaters...
Emperor's Children ever going to get a release?
It would be lovely, wouldn't it? I mean, my God. It makes sense for there to be an Emperor's Children codex soon, doesn't it? Because you've got all the Slaanesh stuff in AOS that they can carry over.
Well, we've been theorising, specifically you and Adam have been theorising for years now on the Fluffenhammer.
There are still
it's right round the corner.
There are still people who are connected to Games Workshop who are still saying the Emperor's Children range has been done for ages.
Do you know when we first came across that rumour? Right? And if all this is true, this is how long that's been sitting there. That has been sitting there since 2018.
I know, right? I know.
Oh, God. Right?
So, possibly 2019. Late 2018, early 2019 is when we first came across that.
But it still keeps coming up. It still keeps cropping up. And from the good rumour mongers, the ones who are often right, they keep saying, Fulgrim is done. There are new Emperor's Children coming. They're just trying to find like a decent spot for them, you know?
And it's so weird, because you'd have thought at this point they'd just go, get them out.
Get them out, yeah.
No.
But they've got to do them, given their new design philosophy, where every war scroll or every unit that's in a codex has to have a dedicated miniature. There aren't dedicated miniatures for Noise Marines. There's only an upgrade kit, which is really old. And I suppose there aren't... You could say there are dedicated miniatures for Khorne Berserkers, but there aren't. They're ancient.
One second. I'm just going to get my glasses back on again. Actually, there is a singular Noise Marine that was released in 2019.
There's the singular Noise Marine. Well, even that, doesn't that suggest by its very presence that there is somewhere going to be a Noise Marine unit soon?
Yes.
You know? But, I mean, the notion that there's going to be... I mean, if there's going to be a World Eaters Codex, there is definitely going to be an Emperor's Children Codex. It doesn't make sense otherwise, does it? It would be insane to do a World Eaters Codex and then do Emperor's Children as part of, like, the Polyglot Chaos Space Marine Codex? That wouldn't make any sense at all.
I like the idea that the one after World Eaters is Iron Warriors.
Okay.
Nah, it'll be Red Corsairs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Red I was trying to think of the really obscure, the more obscure ones, the ones not from the original boys.
Yes.
What you get is Emperor's Emperor's Fist. Hang on. This is a brand new chapter. What's going on?
Crimson Slaughter. Let's do a Crimson Slaughter codex. But no, I think what they're going to do, my suspicion is what they're going to do. You're going to get the cult codices, so you're going to get your Death Guard, which we've already got, your Thousand Sons, which are coming. We'll get onto that, won't we just? You're going to get the World Eaters, you're going to get the Emperor's Children, and then you're going to get your core Chaos Space Marine codex that deals with your undivided legions, essentially. And I imagine what they're going to do for that is what they've done for the Imperial Space Marine. So you're going to get your little supplemental codices for each legion. That would be my guess. But as and when this is going to transpire, who knows? But if the World Eaters are indeed coming, that suggests a lot, doesn't it? So there's definitely going to be new Khorne Berserkers.
Well, it inspires hope, and hope is the most dangerous emotion mankind can ever have.
If there's going to be a World Eaters Codex, you're going to get your Khornate Terminators, aren't you? Whatever they're going to be. They're going to be.
Wouldn't it just be sad if it is just like the normal in the Codex? It's just the standard normal Berserkers that we have right now.
They'd get lynched.
It's just, hey guys, have you seen these before?
They'd get dragged across the coals, especially given the wonderful work they've done with the Death Guard Terminators, the Man Reaper ones, the Bodyguard ones that protect Mortarion, and the Blightlord Terminators, both of whom are wonderful, and indeed the Scarab Occult for the Thousand Sons, who are also really quite cool. They really need to do a Khornate equivalent, a World Eater equivalent.
You know what you do for a fun, stupid thing for your Codex with your new Khorne Berserker? You have a picture, and you have in the foreground the current model cut up into tiny pieces in front of it, and you have the new ones behind standing over
that's how you do it. Definitely.
Then it was like, hey guys, isn't this a funny image? It's dead now. You never have to use this model ever again. You've got nice new ones now. It's dead.
But, given what they've done with the Khornate miniatures in AOS, which are spectacular, it's one of the strongest Chaos ranges in AOS. Can you imagine what the Khorne Berserkers are going to be like if, as and when they get around to doing them?
Lots of tubes, hopefully. Maybe parts of their skulls missing. Yeah. Maybe just their faces missing.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if at long last they actually represent the Butcher's Nails on the miniatures?
Yeah. Ooh, that'd be fun.
Tying them to Angron,
cool. Yeah.
Speaking of Angron...
Well, he's got to be there too.
Are we going to place a bet then if Angron's going to turn up?
He's got to be. I mean, they can't do a World Eaters Codex without him, having done the Thousand Sons with Magnus and the Death Guard with Mortarion. It's impossible. Also, we know he's out there. He's actually turned up in the galaxy again, He's leading rampaging hordes across the galaxy, so they've got to do him. And if they do, they should do a campaign around him, because he's a monster. Yes. Angron is Mortarion and Magnus are monsters too, but they're monsters in different ways. They're controlled, they're contained, they plan, Angron doesn't.
He's a fire.
Yeah, he's a force of nature. He's a tsunami. He's a tempest,
Do you know what'd be great? If they really double down on the fact that Angron was quite short.
In his demon form, he ain't.
Well, no, but I quite like the idea, because Angron's quite stout, isn't he? He's not,
he's big, he's burly, he's broad, He's not like Fulgrim, who's lithe and sexy,
But he wasn't very tall, was he? He was just quite short and bold. So I quite like the idea of just having a Bruce Willis-looking motherfucker just kicking around.
He's also like a living heavy metal album cover. I mean, if you read the Solar Wars book, where the Thousand Sons conduct some awesome ritual that allows the fleets of Horus to appear in the skies above Terra. They basically tear the skies of Terra open, and through it comes the Conqueror, the flagship of the World Eaters, streaming warp fire, and riding it on the outside is Angron. It's wow.
All I've got in my head now is the Balsagoth song, and behold, they ride on fire dragons.
Yeah.
It just goes, mightiest of warriors, we sail across the sea. Diddle-a-doo, diddle-a-doo, diddle-a-diddle-a-doo, diddle-a-doo.
And the way he arrives on the surface of Terra, like, is in a black comet of fire. It's just like, yeah, all right.
All right, now we're into Cradle of Filth territory.
Right, go for it. Why not, you know? Why not? Just go for it. Who cares at this point? But yeah,
There is something about characters making Planetfall without a ship
Without
that
a
I
ship,
always,
yeah.
without fail, find cool.
without a ship. I mean,
Are you sure about that? What about Vulcan?
it's not cool for Vulcan, is it?
No, it's really not
It's
cool.
really
Who do it on purpose.
Oh, okay,
Who do
that's
it
fair.
for fun, yeah. I mean, what happens? You know what happens to Angron after that? The Imperial forces open up with every gun on the walls of Terra. There are weapons on there that are designed to annihilate continents, right? And they all hit him. And there's just left is this smouldering crater. And they watch as his demonic form reforms in the smouldering ashes. And it's like, you're just heavy metal, aren't you? You are just like the spirit of heavy metal. It's great.
Did someone just scream, he rolled a 6?
It's very cool. But apart from that, I mean, the really exciting thing, of course, is we've got the Thousand Suns coming, which
Damn it.
it was a
I'm
worry.
annoyed that you managed to get in there because I was really going to try and track you off into the Grey Knights before you got to the Thousand Suns.
The thing is, the Grey Knights, they've had, I mean, they're being released alongside the Thousand Suns, and I really like the way they've actually counterpointed the Grey Knights with the Thousand Suns, because it's kind of unexpected, but also kind of works. They are the psychic heavy armies of each force. You know, one is the Imperium, one is Chaos, and they are very alike in many, many respects, you know? They yes, I've seen him. Adam's just brought up... this was a bit of a shock, wasn't it? There's a Blood Bowl specific miniature for Scylla.
I want
It's
it.
like, what? He's already...
Look at his socks.
I mean, he's already in, like, the Blades of Corn, you know? But they've made a Blood Bowl specific miniature for him. I just love it. I think it's really cute and really cool.
Look at his socks.
I also like the idea of a Chaos Spawn playing Blood Bowl. That amuses me for some reason.
Everything. Why is it Blood Bowl miniatures are always just like so characterful?
They are very fun, aren't they? They're very fun. So yeah, there's a cornate like Blood Bowl force. You do not want to be facing them.
Not when they've got a sock wearing spawn.
I mean, are they even going to care? Like, why are they even going to bother about the ball at all?
Well,
Maybe they were bred to care.
Yeah, care about like lopping off the heads and ripping out the guts of the opposing team.
You know, football. Football.
Sports ball.
Spot ball.
I'm waiting for them to do like the oh my god, what would the Slanesh team be like? You don't even want to know, do you? My god, you don't even want to know what that is.
Well, because I'm very classy, as this episode has shown. I'm not going to go into what the Slaneshi football team would be like.
The Slanesh team would be more interested in what goes on after and before the match, wouldn't they? Like, you know, in the changing rooms and whatnot.
But yeah, so today we've got the Reichsfeld Raiders versus the Slanesh. Oh dear. Nobody has come out, and one person just tried to crawl out and was dragged back in. Okay, play ball.
Oh, we already have been. No, I said balls.
I think there is a really naughty Facebook group called, I think it's called Slanesh is Watching You Masturbate, which is, they do very sort of very funny memes for Slanesh, basically. And one of them is Zigfold. It's a picture of Zigfold, and it says, "New Stormcast Eternals, wonderful. I'll shag them." it's like, yes. It's so funny. I love it. I love it to bits.
How do you think a Stormcast Eternal would deal with that? Just like
Zigfold,
somebody walking up to them and just derobing in front of them, going.
Zigfold would manage it. You know, he is that guy.
It's the only time in like a game of Age of Sigmar where you have to fail a seduction roll.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Wow.
Why,
And then they
Why?
convert to Slaanesh, and then that's the end. They're a hedonite from that point on.
why am I playing a weird late 90s Colosseum game? I don't understand.
But yes, I mean, Thousand Suns and Grey Knights. Yes, the Grey Knights. From what we've seen, the Grey Knight stuff. Maybe this is just my innate bias, but I've been reading the Grey Knight stuff closely, and it just doesn't seem as exciting as the Thousand Suns stuff. Am I the only one who feels that?
No, it's it just simply feels like it's there.
Yeah, I mean it.
Has it done anything new with them? Or
Yeah,
is it just
there's a few.
PVR again?
There's a few updates to them. I mean, like what they've tried.
Okay.
It seems like what they've tried to do is make them the psychic defensive force. So they've got things like there's the Aegis suits that they wear have an innate deny the witch quality to them, which makes a lot of sense for the Grey Knights. Whereas the Thousand Suns are the aggressive psychoforce. You know, they're casting spells at you, but I don't know. There just doesn't seem the Grey Knight stuff just doesn't seem as like whoa. You know, some of the stuff they've introduced for the Thousand Suns, it's so right, and it seems to work so well for the army that you look at it and think, well, how did they not think of that before? Because it's perfect. You know, it's absolutely perfect. There doesn't seem to be anything like that for the Grey Knights. You know, nothing that's come out and made me go, oh wow, that's incredible. Rules wise, it looks really solid. They look like they're going to be a really solid, quite powerful little force, you know, but it's not exciting. Whereas the Thousand Suns stuff is just joyous. It's absolutely joyous. It looks like they've looked at the essential ethos and spirit of the Thousand Suns and gone, how can we make these fun on the tabletop? How can we make like them little role-playing units? I mean, have you read the Kabbalistic Focus stuff?
Yes.
Love it. Love it to bits. It's so perfect. It does exactly what we've been saying the Thousand Suns should be. They should be beasts in the psychic phase, and this makes them that. It means that basically what happens is the characters in Thousand Suns forces generate Cabal points. Different characters generate different numbers of Cabal points, and in the psychic phase you can spend them to generate different special rules from the Codex. So some of them allow you. One of the nastiest ones I've seen. It costs 8 points, so it's a lot, but it's damn good. It means that you can assign one of your psychic powers that's been cast, and it can't be denied. So if you get that off at the right time, and in the right place, that can be game winning. You know, deployed correctly, that can be game winning. That's mad.
It's a weird one. The Thousand Suns. I don't want to say they're feeling overpowered, but there is an element of that to them, where I'm struggling to see where their weaknesses are, other than they're a bit slow.
Well, their weaknesses are going to be in melee. Definitely. They're shit in melee. I mean, they've got... That said, they've got a boost in certain areas that makes them quite highly defensive. So they've got their 2 wounds now, 3 if you're Scarab Occult. The new character, the Infernal Master, has lots of naughty little tricks. Another thing we've been saying for ages on this channel is, why can't the Thousand Suns use their tutelaries like they have in the fiction? Oh, now they can. The Infernal Master can summon tutelaries from the warp, and he's got like a whole roster of different powers depending on what tutelaries, or i.e. little demons, he summons and how he deploys them, that help to buff the units around you. It's so good. It's so good. He's going to be a must-take in your Thousand Suns armies. He really is.
Ah, yeah, absolutely. But then I asked the question again, where are all the weaknesses?
I'm imagining what it's going to be. It seems to be what they've done with them. They've cast them as the Chaos Grey Knights, right? So they're going to be small. There are not going to be many of them. They're going to be an expensive army, these guys. And if they don't hit hard in the psychic phase, they're going to find the rest of it quite difficult.
Okay.
I think that's where it's going to be. And also, if you take out the characters, They are
now see,
built.
there's the interesting part,
They're
where there's
built.
like a network.
Yeah, and that's how it is in the background. They've always been about their officers. They've always been about the sorcerers, and the rest are just automata. And that's what they've done. The Kabbalistic focus rule does that beautifully, because you're going to be relying on that to get your psychic powers off and to buff them and to make them more powerful, So, yeah, I'm very impressed. And the updates to the Scarab Occult and to the Rubricae, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Makes them what they should have been, like, ages ago, It's everything everybody wanted from a Thousand Sons army. Interestingly, it looks like there are no demons again, apart from Demon Princes and Magnus. So my guess is that somewhere down the line in 40k we'll get the full Demon Codex, which will detail summoning rules and ally rules and that kind of thing.
Yeesh.
Interesting, eh? Interesting stuff.
It is.
But I'm excited. I'm really excited. I was really worried when the Thousand Sons came up this early that I was going to be like, oh no, are they just going to do is it going to be one of the throwaway codices of 9th, Because they could have done that, because the Thousand Sons are one of those niche armies, But it doesn't look like they have. It looks like they've put a lot of time and effort into it, which, ecstatic, absolutely ecstatic about that.
I'm just looking. I'm sorry. I'm just reading through all the stuff that's on the Marines, and I'm just sitting there going, "These guys are ridiculous."
They are going to be good, aren't they? I mean, they are going to be good. They've put all the emphasis on the Marines, which is wonderful,
The one good thing that I can say is that you are really going to have to learn this army.
Yeah.
It's not one that you're going to be able to put onto the tabletop and just play.
No.
You have to learn.
It's all about synergies, isn't it? If you look at the way what they've revealed thus far, it's all about the little synergies. So you're going to have to know how one unit interacts with another and how the stratagems work with that. That you're going to have to think about, and that's the way they should be. I mean, they're the Thousand Sons. They're a legion of scholars. They are Zechian. They should be a thinking man's army. I have no problem with that. I'd rather them be that than be like, one of the big, like the World Eaters are supposed to be, where you just chuck them forward and hope for the best,
I'm thinking that you mean actually throw the miniatures at your opponent. Like, go away.
Yeah. Corn cares not from whence the blood flows, But yeah, they've done everything that people have been asking for. So the Scarab Occult have got a little bit of an update with their Kopeshes. They're a little bit more deadly now instead of just being power weapons, which makes a lot of sense. The Warp Flamers are a little bit better now than what they used to be. So units of Thousand Sons, Rubricae with Warp Flamers are now really viable,
Yeah.
And we haven't even seen the psychic powers yet. We know they've got 2 laws of 9 powers each.
That's insane.
Yeah, the law of change and the law of vengeance is what they've got. So that's interesting. That's very interesting. We haven't seen the rules for Magnus yet either.
No, that's true, actually. We don't know what Magnus is going to look
Not
like
yet.
in
Not
this
yet.
new version.
We do know that when you put him down, he brings a mighty, I think it's 4 or 5 Cabal points on his own. So that's pretty good. That's pretty damn good in and of itself. There's also a lovely new rule whereby you can spend points to upgrade your characters to different types of sorcerer. And there are 9. 9 being the sacred number of Zeech. There are 9 different types, all with their own rules. Lovely. They also said that what they've done, the design focus in the Codex is they really want you to feel like the Thousand Sons each come from the 9 cults of Sorciarius. So they've gone hard on that, apparently. We haven't seen the rules for them yet, but apparently they've gone quite hard on them.
Okay.
Which I'm pleased about. The 9 cults are great.
All right, I'm going to come off this page now because I just keep looking at things
Yeah.
and not actually talking to you guys.
It's exciting,
right.
isn't it? Isn't it really interesting?
I'm getting far too into reading it, so I'll stop doing that.
I can't wait.
It looks like an army that it's hard mode. It's the best way I can describe it. Where if you get everything just right, you are going to decimate. You are going to absolutely decimate your opponent. But one little cog goes wrong,
and you're screwed.
Everything's gonna flop around, and you're not gonna be able to re-establish
I
yourself.
think that's going to be it, and that's how they've always played, and that's how they kind of should be. So fine, that's good. It's fun, you know.
Yeah. Of course, next to it, there's the Death Guard.
Oh,
sorry, not the Death Guard, the Death Corps. It's
the Death Corps. I mean, I like them. They're very cool, aren't they?
I just want masks. What we should do is we should start going to like conventions and things dressed up as the Creekans.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Do you have any sauce for this burger? Thank you.
I don't know. I'd want to come as one of like the Valhallans. That'd be fun with the big hats, the big hats.
Yeah. I'm always a sucker for a big hat. I think that's literally all the things that we were going to go over.
I think so. Yeah. I mean,
oh my God.
I've had a chance to enthuse about the Thousand Sons, so I'm happy. I'm very excited for that army. I've got to say, I'm very excited.
Shall we do a little overview of the madness that has taken over this week?
Yeah, I suppose we can dive into that.
So, yeah, I mean, it is quite a big thing, and it has eaten up a lot of this week. Well, last 2 weeks, really. So, a lot of YouTube channels have either closed down or decided to... There's no good way of putting it. They've decided to stop making product, or they've decided to leave the product as is and not make anything new.
Yeah.
Right. And it comes down to the fact that a couple of months ago, GW's website updated itself, the lawyer part of the website, I might add, updated itself to something a bit more modern, where it said that fan animations are not allowed due to the fact that it is infringement of IP. Right, okay. Honestly, go have a look at what Disney and Warner Brothers and things like that have to say about it. And I think you might find it's a bit surprising how many companies have stuff like this. We know that some people were reached out to and offered jobs. We know at least one person accepted a job. We know one person couldn't get to a position where they were both happy.
Yeah.
So agreed to demonetize their channel, but left it up. And as far as I understand, it was then hounded out by the community at large, which is kind of depressing, to say the least, instead of rallying around somebody. And I know that somebody else has left the channel up and it has been demonetized, and it's there. Okay. Unfortunately, the Broodwell Films says If the Emperor Had a Speech-to-Text Device has now come to an end. There is nothing I can see that has made that happen other than he's decided he's going to end it now in case anything does happen.
In case. That seems to be it largely, doesn't it? I haven't seen anything direct yet. And it actually seems like I mean, don't get me wrong, I am not a fan of corporations or businesses and whatnot. And I will always be on the side of the little guy, the creator. But from what I can see, Games Workshop haven't actually done anything directly as of yet.
Not as such. Lawyers, or the law side of it, has reached out to people. GW as a firm itself, it doesn't seem to have. It's hard to tell because a lot of this stuff is happening behind closed doors. It's difficult to say,
isn't
obviously,
it?
Yeah.
And even when they've reached out, it seems like they've reached out in a much more softer way than like they would have, you know?
Yeah.
It's with offers of jobs and whatnot, you know, and with an eye towards conversation, it seems, as opposed to you know, bringing down the banhammer. Most of the extreme reactions seem to be from the fan base more than from the company itself.
It does seem to be a lot of sky is falling. Now, I totally understand a lot of where this is coming from.
Yeah, it's from the old days, isn't it? It's from the old days.
People fearing that we're going to return to that. Which I don't see happening.
No.
However, in the full transparency from the story updating, earlier today, something happened where mods were being removed from Steam for the Total Warhammer games. I'm not going to pretend I understand what's happening there because I haven't seen the full story. I've just seen a couple of screenshots of announcements of something will probably be happening, which means we're going to take them down now. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. My question would be, is that something that's coming from GW? Is that something that's coming from the makers of Total War?
My guess would be it's more from the makers of Total War. I may be wrong, but
I don't know about that, because if that was the case,
say.
that would have happened a while ago.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
This seems a bit too convenient that it's coming alongside with the whole animation thing. It seems more like, to me, it would be more of a GW thing. And if it is coming from CA, it might be more of a thing of GW telling them to do something about it. But I think it is coming from GW itself rather than anything else.
Yeah. As I say, I don't know enough of this yet to be able to form any judgment. You know, it's quite a new development, and I can't quite get what's happening, and we won't, I don't think, until we know exactly
until there's something. There's like some absolutism somewhere, you know.
Indeed. I will say that I think that GW really needed to have a bit more transparency on this one, because the shuttered down nature of how they've dealt with a lot of this isn't helping them at all. You know, it's making it for a very bad atmosphere.
Well, it's allowing speculation, which is then running rampant and is causing a degree of hysteria. It really is, you know?
Well, I don't know. Like you said, like we've said before, the horror of going back to the old days is something to be aware of.
I totally get that, you know. I
think isn't this current CEO like a former Hasbro person as well?
He's not the CEO. He's
oh, not the CEO. He's the person running it, though, isn't he? Something like that.
There's a guy that they've now employed who is ex-Hasbro.
Yeah, and that would make me concerned coming from a much bigger American company like Hasbro.
But then,
so I can understand why people are concerned.
Yeah, I do understand the concerns, definitely.
But then we look at Hasbro and go, do you actually care about your IP?
Well, the difference is like a lot of the stuff for Hasbro takes place in China, and that's a lot harder to nail down. And it has been nailed down a few times, but only directly when someone's gone up to a Hasbro official and been like, here's some Chinese knockoff stuff, isn't this much better than your stuff? Then Hasbro's had to step up. Believe it or not, if you swing your dick in a company's face, they will be obliged to do something about it at that point.
Well, this is the thing I was going to say. That this is the problem. This is the area that we're in now, where you're having a lot of people who've put a lot of work into some, quite frankly, beautiful work, and it's being pushed against what is a protection of an IP.
But the difference is it's not being swung in their face, and I think like if there's a reason for this coming along, it seems like it would be more to do with the streaming service, which I think makes sense.
I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah, it's just very bad optics if that's the case.
Yeah,
it's not going to give GW a good look.
No. I am choosing my words very carefully as I go along here.
I think doing it as well would be a bad call, just because it would limit the amount of people potentially who might stumble across a fan animation thing online.
Absolutely, yeah.
Being forced to go to an online streaming service which you got to pay money for. People aren't going to do that who don't know GW.
No, completely.
It's a bit of a shame.
And the big difference, of course, between the Transformers third-party stuff that we were mentioning earlier and GW is that the GW market is actually, I would say, smaller than the wider Hasbro market.
Probably, I don't know. No, we don't know numbers, obviously, but I think it's probably better to say that. I guess.
And I think the issue that we've got here is that in order to protect what they own, and before anyone makes it, yes, I'm aware that GW started off by nicking everything that wasn't nailed down to make their stuff.
We're aware.
But that was 35 years ago.
It was usually 20. It was usually different enough, I guess. While this isn't different, it is using the actual IP. I suppose you could argue. If you wanted to go down that route.
The argument would be that this is not a taking something, filing the serial numbers off it and repurposing it as yours. This is using something that belongs to somebody else in order to make something, which, as far as I'm concerned, as a creative endeavour, is fine. The downside to that is that it's not yours. You've got to give it back at some point.
Yeah.
Am I worried about this channel and the stuff that we do? No. I'm not worried at all. I don't. until somebody reaches out to me and talks to me, I will not be stopping the channel. I won't be shutting the channel down. There is, unfortunately, the timing is really bad. There is going to be a break in the short stories coming out, but that's due to the fact that I have a 19-month-old son, and time is
it's incidental.
Me.
Yeah,
I think it's only a concern if you're you have a lot of attention on you, like the text-to-speech thing. If you have a lot of attention, it's pulling eyes away from GW, which might make them nervous.
Yeah, and of course the text-to-speech would have been, I was going to say would have been covered by parody law, but then you don't have that in every country, so that's going to be a problem.
That's clearly why they closed it down, because they don't have the money to fight that stuff.
No, and I totally understand where they're coming from. I understand exactly where they're coming from. It ties back into that transparency that really should have been there, but obviously isn't going to be there, because the moment you have that transparency, stockholders and shareholders are going to start screaming about the sky falling.
Yeah.
This is a bigger problem than GW. This is how businesses are run.
It's complex, isn't it? It's more complex than obviously the internet allows the conversation to be.
There is a lot of levels going on here. This isn't just a miniatures company being like the miniatures company was in the early 2000s and going after people. This is a company in the modern day that has to protect its IP because it could lose it it could lose part of it anyhow very easily through the bizarreness of business law and IP law. There is a lot. I'm not going to pretend I understand all of it. I don't. Fucking hell, you need to be an actual lawyer to do it. I do think that they went around it the wrong way. Even though they themselves have done things the right way behind closed doors, if you're not paying attention to those little leaks that are coming out from behind closed doors, it does look really bad. But also, this is a company, and it is going to act like a company. That's the downside here. We can sit here and we can talk about the creative side of this and the artistic side and the fiction as long as we want, and we do, because that's the stuff that we all love. Unfortunately, it is a company, and it will have to act like a company does, because if it doesn't, it will fail. And that's not a good thing to have to think about, but it's unfortunately true. This is how companies have to act these days. You've got to remember that over the last 5 years, they have made a lot of headway into reaching out to the community and doing things with the community and being a completely different company. But there are still lawyers who are involved. There are still a lot of business heads involved who are there to protect and grow the business in a way that we never see normally. We don't see, because it's got nothing to do with miniatures. It's got nothing to do with the fiction. It's got nothing to do with the books or the stuff they put out on the YouTube channel. It's all the cog work and stuff that's behind the scenes. And that's all where all the dirty stuff happens. And it happens with every single company that's out there. Anything that makes anything does this kind of stuff. And we've seen that a lot with the AAA video game industry over the last 2 years. It's a larger problem than this. It is a way that all businesses have to be run. Is this way? And unfortunately, there's a big shield in front of GW of here's all the fun stuff that you can have, and this is all the stuff that people get into. And I think it's something that's worth thinking about.
Yeah.
I'm getting off my soapbox. Your guys' thoughts?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, I'm waiting for there to be more information myself. I don't think there's enough yet. I mean, I haven't seen enough of what Games Workshop themselves are actually doing.
In terms of what?
In terms of like what their interactions with creators are going to be from this point on. I don't know. I haven't really seen a great deal of it, and I don't think we probably are going to see a great deal, other than the more overt results of whatever those interactions are. But we're going to have to wait for that.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Is we've kind of got small little chunks of information from here, there, and everywhere. We've got no unifying here is all of the info of what's actually happening. And I think that's what causes a lot of the concern and the worry of why is this happening now? So close to the streaming. Why? I mean, this is one of the questions I've got. Why now? Why not 3 months ago? Why not 5 months ago? That's one of the things that doesn't make any sense to me. Did someone just realize that, oh shit?
That might be the case, that might be the case. Someone may have just noticed that the existing sort of boilerplate that they had on their website was just not very good or up to snuff or didn't cover them correctly.
Yeah. That could be it. I would say that some lawyer, I keep saying lawyer with a really, dirty twinge to it.
Well, that's fair.
For a good reason, yeah.
I think it's just because I think of Billy. So, lawyer, Billy, Stripes. There was probably some collection of lawyers in a lawyer firm that GW uses who were just looking at something one day and went, "Oh crap!"
Yeah, that kind of rings true to me. Somebody noticed that this had just been sat there for God knows how long and was badly out of date.
Yeah, we need to jump on this now before this opens up. Which, once again, is down to the way that these things are run, rather than somebody sitting there and going, "I'm going to fuck up some people's day." It's. I don't think it's good, or for the whatever word you want to use, or right, or however you want to say it, for these guys to have to shut this stuff down.
No, it's really sad.
It
is really sad.
Absolutely. But stuff like Astartes and the Astartes 2 going over to Games Workshop officially, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm really happy for the guy.
Yeah.
I think is Hellreach going over there as well, or have I got that wrong? I'm not sure. I think the stuff that's going over there, that's brilliant. I think it's really sad that some stuff's had to go.
Yeah.
I think it's really sad that some people who have put a lot of time and effort into this type of stuff can't monetize it. I understand why they can't.
Yep.
But it is sad that they can't.
Yeah.
There is a lot of inflections to this which are really sad, but
well, it's
also
difficult,
very understandable.
isn't it? The whole thing is a difficult situation. And I'm not sure what, or if there, if you can draw any clear conclusions on it yet.
No, I think, and we won't, because that's the way that this stuff has to run. The shareholders won't allow information like this to be released and linked because it affects shares and stocks. And at the end of the day, the reason that their people are shareholders and the like is to make money. And anything that threatens that isn't going to happen. Well, at least not on purpose. Decisions that go, well, we're going to lose a percentage of how much we're going to make this year if we do this, so we're not going to do it. And I think that's a shame, because a lot of transparency would go a long way at the moment.
Yes, and I do fear that I would not want them to lose the goodwill that they've earned back.
Yeah, I think
that's the big
fear,
happen, isn't it? That's the big fear.
Yeah,
I mean, this for some people will have lost that good faith.
Yeah,
because all of this depends on how you interpret the information. Do you interpret it in a positive light, believing GW are trying to do the best, or do you believe that they are a company and they are unfeeling and they don't care and they just want money? And depending on how you look at the information, like you mentioned, it is very limited what we have at the moment, will drastically dictate how you see this. And it's totally understandable why there are people who are very, very angry about it, because they see this is a really bad betrayal. As I say, going back to the old days, it makes sense why there is a lot of hullabaloo, shall we say, about it. It makes sense.
I think you're absolutely right there when you say that people feel that there's been a betrayal.
Yeah.
A lot of what has happened in the, should we say, the dark days before GW started turning things around was that it was kept going by the community making stuff like this, and that burgeoned and blossomed into people making stuff like Astartes and Hell's Reach and that other one that's name's completely gone out my head now about the Chaos Marines that was very pretty, but didn't actually have a story.
No.
Gone, totally gone. And Emperor had a text-to-speech. I mean, that I think is one of the saddest things about this, because Emperor had such a following, it had such a thing, and it moved off into its own thing at this point. Yeah, it was doing such an amazing job at being itself. That, honestly, I don't think that anybody would have touched it. But I understand the fear that the guy had. Completely understood the fear that the guy had. And from the community at large, having this stuff, and it feels like it's been taken away, rather than what's actually happening is people are making that choice. It does feel like a betrayal of trust, because these are the guys that have got me into it, or these are the guys that have sustained my interest in the product, and now you're saying that they're not allowed to be there. That doesn't seem right, even though the truth is a lot more complicated than that. I can see how people who see that and then get very upset. Totally understand it. I disagree with it, but I understand it.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of ways this has been a very difficult time, and I think a lot of people's first reaction is to get angry. And to really, it shows a lot of the passion that people have for the product that is being put out. And let's be honest here, it's a product. It is a product made by a company, to boil it right down. It's something that we enjoy. It's something that we all love. But when something like this happens and people get emotionally attached and very emotionally angry about it, that has to vent somewhere, and that's what we've been seeing, is a huge vent of that. And it isn't helped by the fact that the vent is all hitting this big stone wall that isn't responding. And I think, out of all of it, GW's big failing is having that big stone wall up, because it does feel like the old days where they didn't have any social media presence or anything like that. They've got a social media presence, but it's navigating its way around everything that's being said. And you can understand why people get frustrated, absolutely. But as I say, it is indicative of a problem.
It's such a difficult tightrope to walk as well, isn't it? I mean, assuming they do even want to respond to it, which they may not. As Andy says, they may just not care. But assuming for the moment that they do, there's also the litigation side of things to consider. How do they respond without impugning themselves or others? It's such a minefield, isn't it?
Very much so. I'm not going to pretend that I've got the answers to this one. Not at all. It's a very difficult situation to be in, which is why I think it would have been a better idea to have started this maybe 6 months ago and allowed conversations to happen, because things feel rushed, and I think that's a big part of it as well, that things feel like it's all just happened at once. The domino effect has just taken place. If it had been over a longer period of time, even if they'd done this before they announced Warhammer Plus, people would have put two and two together down the line, but you wouldn't have had this very visceral reaction to it. Or maybe you would. I don't know. It's very difficult.
Yeah, you're trying to preempt the internet there. God only knows.
Yeah, very much so.
God only knows. I mean, there is another factor as well, which is that there are certain outlets on the internet that have seized upon it and have emphasized the situation for clicks, just to draw attention to themselves, which has not helped the situation. It's actually muddied the waters and made it much more confusing.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's a big chunk of that confusion is a good word for it, because when things get confused, they usually get angry.
They usually get angry then, yeah. But then again, once again, it's almost redundant to say, because it's the internet and that's what happens.
Yeah. It's just, if you're feeling the need to really vent your spleen on another person, just take that step back. On both sides. Take that step back for a few minutes and just think, is it worth me cussing out somebody who disagrees? Because no. In this case, it's not.
Unless it's J.K. Rowling.
Unless it's J.K. Rowling, and then you've got to stop her from digging up the family dog to give it a tug, because that's all she's going to do. She's just going to wank off your dead pets all day long.
I'm just surprised she wrote a book promoting owl slavery.
Well, yeah, how else are you going to wank off an owl?
Just think,
Gotta
what
chain
is
it to a
one of the
cage.
slowest birds? Owls are pretty slow. You know what wizards can do in that universe that's faster than sending an owl? Teleport.
Teleport, yeah.
You know what they could do with an owl? Teleport the owl.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, in the first movie, they send Harry millions of letters without the need of an owl through magic. Why are the owls enslaved? Were they the size of owl bears before? Were they a beaten, destroyed species that's put into slavery servitude of the wizard caste? What happened in Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling?
Well,
Free the owls. Hashtag free the owls.
What happened is that Dumbledore just went around going, I'm going to put my finger up this owl's bottom.
Oh, God.
And he'd just walk around with like owl gloves. It was really disturbing.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You just don't want to see it. It's Snape is just there sliding his entire fist into a falcon. Should we end this episode?
Yeah. It's gone down a weird route now.
Thanks, J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
You dog wanker that you are. Why would you do it? Why would you get a spade, go around to somebody's pet cemetery, and start digging up their animals to just wank them off? It's just so weird.
It's such an odd thing to do, isn't it?
It is.
And
I don't understand. And yet it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly.
Sometimes it's better to be dead. Sometimes dead's better.
Sometimes it's better to be dead.
Yeah, you made it much more articulate, Andy. You improved the grammar.
I didn't want the improved grammar. The bad grammar's better.
The bad grammar's better. It is. Sometimes dead's better.
Damn it.
Sometimes dead is better.
Sometimes
than being wanked
dead.
off by
You
J.K.
made it
Rowling.
more British. Sometimes dead is better.
I like the idea of doing that really poshly. Sometimes dead is better.
Yeah, it doesn't work, does it?
No.
It makes it too comedy of manners.
I don't think you got many Ernest Hemingway plays about. Anyhow, no, I'm going to leave that one alone because I was going to go down a path that I really, really don't want to have to deal with in YouTube comments. Which, considering everything else I've said tonight,
I was going to say, God, that must have been really dark and terrible.
It wasn't good.
But I think what Adam is getting at here is that TERFs are scum, and that's it. You know?
Well, there's a reason it stands for tugging every dog roughly forever. I mean, it's just weird to me. It's just weird why you'd say that. Why would you create a group that meets up every week to wank off dead dogs?
You gotta have a hobby.
This is gonna. If any of this gets into the episode, it's gonna be really weird.
I'm leaving all of this in. I'll take the heat for that one.
Oh God, yeah, happily. Yeah.
Oh God, I'm crying. I'm actually crying.
The ire of turfery is basically manna from heaven. You know, it's delicious.
Well, don't go after Pratchett.
Well, no.
Because I will sit here and I will mock you mercilessly for trying to rewrite history. Anyhow, right. Andy. Where can people find you when they're not listening to me?
You can find me on Twitter, CCTFW, on Twitch, CCTFW, where I play video games from 11 o'clock in the evening till usually about 1:30 in the morning. So that's a fun bit of time. I'm playing Neo at the moment, and George, you like Dark Souls. You might enjoy Neo. It's got a similar play style, but it's all, of course, set during the feudal era of Japan.
Right.
The only time that in the historical past that Japan loves so much, they will always use the warring feudal, as long as it's got Nobunaga in. Japan fucking loves it. But you get to find loads of yokai as well, and that's nice. Yokai are really interesting mythological creatures. So I'm playing a lot of that and really liking it a lot. You can also find me on the Moonbase 2 podcast, where I talk about Transformers and woo-woo with my buddy Mikey. So you just put in Moonbase 2, you'll probably find us. And that'll do me. That'll do.
Which reminds me, actually, Andy. Do you have the tiny Target Master Pretender guys?
Which ones?
The Primes.
Bombus, Octopunch, Scorpion
those
and
ones.
Bludgeon. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones from Prime Wars.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I think I got them all.
I've got 4 of them on my desk.
They're not bad. They're all right.
I keep making my chow chase them.
I would like the actual Pretender shells to be more than what they were, personally, because I'm selfish and want Pretenders to be cooler and like they were back in the 90s, but that's not going to happen, and I understand that. But I can lament and hate it for it as well.
I don't know what I'm going to do with these guys. They were on sale for like £2 each, so
You just
That's
got
all
them,
right.
yeah.
yeah, because they were there. Now they're sitting here. I'll probably just give them to Joseph when he gets a bit
Yeah, you
older.
can just keep them. Yeah, you don't want to give them to him now. He'll just eat them. That's a bad call.
He's actually got my old Power Core Combiner Smolder,
Okay.
and he loves it. Absolutely loves it. It's a tractor, apparently. But,
All right. Well, fair enough.
okay. George, where can people find you when they're not listening to Andy?
Usually wherever chocolate is sold. You can find me at Exaggerated Elegy on YouTube, where I'm currently playing through Resident Evil 8, which is fabulous, by the way. Loving it to death. What is the fetish Capcom have with Ethan's hands? I mean, it's so weird. It's so friggin' weird. Mutilating the primary character's hands is a joke now. It's an in-joke in the game. Beyond that, you can find my published work over at strangeplaygrounds.com. Got a new short story collection coming out on the 10th of August. That is going to be from Perpetual Motion Machine Publications, Born in Blood Volume 2. And you can also come and chat to me on Twitter at Enigmatic Elegy, if you fancy.
I'll stick the link for the pre-order
thank
into
you.
the chat. And,
Thank you. Just content warnings for everything.
If you've managed to get this far through the episode, I don't think you need content warnings.
Everything, honestly. It's a grim read, but it's fun.
Would you say it's the Grim Reader?
No. Because that would hurt me.
As for me, you can find me here on the Fluffenhammer YouTube and the Fluffenhammer.com. We've got the full website, and I'm still slowly but surely moving articles from the old Weebly site to the new Squarespace site. It is taking a very long time because I literally have around about an hour and a half a day free to do everything.
Yay!
Wowza. You can also find, because I'm an idiot, because apparently I don't need sleep, I've set up a little website where I've put a lot of my creative endeavours from the years into one place. So all of my art can be found there, and a lot of the audiobooks I've made are up for free download now. And that is at adnickel.weebly.com. So if you want, what's on there? There's 2 horror anthologies, one written by me, one written by my old co-host from the Creeks, James. And there's a book on there which marks the rise and fall of the 2D side-scrolling fighting game genre.
Interesting.
Written by Alan Stairs, who has done a load of music for us for the when we try to run an RPG show.
Oh, awesome.
My God, I've got so many ideas and just no time to do any of them. Really upsetting. So there's a lot of stuff that'll be going up on there. I'm taking art commissions at the moment because I need money. I'm not going to joke. It's like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, to look a little bit behind the curtain, half my job went away.
Oh.
So I am like, oh God, this is not a good thing. That's a problem for working for a charity. Ching. So yeah, that's all of my stuff. Come join us at the Fluff and Hammer Discord. There is earlier this week we were having a discussion all about different movies and ridiculous, silly things. And if I just try to look it up, because I can't remember the name of the person, Pink Lithium. Pink Lithium says has recently discovered the horror that is dragons and cars.
Bah.
Oh no! Oh no!
Andy knows.
I don't,
No,
and I
no.
have a feeling I don't want to.
No, you don't.
I've got a theory. It must be Turnbull. Turnbull just made some horrible people cry. I've got a theory. It must be Turnbull. He just made you really want to die. He showed me dragons and cars. That was my song about Andy Turnbull. Right then, guys, we're going to get out of here. We do have a Patreon, by the way. If you'd like to go to the Patreon, you can find it in the link below. And you get a show in front of this show, which is just us talking absolute nonsense.
For the most part.
And the backlog of stuff that I've put up on there has been ridiculous. Whilst we're on hiatus, I have managed to get out like 3 shows a week of re-uploaded stuff.
Excellent.
And people, I hope, have been enjoying it, including The Old Art of Noise, which is always a fun one to listen to. It's massively out of date now, but it's always good to listen to music. So, with all that being said, we're going to get out of here. Say goodbye, George.
Bye-bye.
Say goodbye, Andy.
Oh.
that was
Lord
a video
Croak.
game character death sound, wasn't it?
I thought it was Lord Croak watching the insertion stick. And thank you very much for listening. You guys take care now. Bye-bye.